Okay, the videos this week I'm going to explain the setup and layout of Studio One. What you're looking at right now is the start screen of Studio One Professional. We are going to select New Song. If you're using Studio One Prime, which is the free version, or Artist, the only thing you'll have is New Song. Professional also has Project and Show, but don't worry about those for right now. We're going to stick with New Song. I'm going to create an empty song, although there are some templates for various different interfaces or styles. But let's start with an empty song. Here in song title, we put the name. Today's the 27th, so I'll use that. And this is for a video demo. Then below this tells you where it's going to save. If you click the three dots, it opens up. I'm going to put it in my Loyola 20 Fall folder on my hard drive. And then it lets us select things like sample rate. I'm going to put this one at 44.1. Resolution, the time base, which is what will show up on the timeline, the song length, tempo, time signature, key signature, etc. The stuff that we're going to be doing right now, those things don't really matter. But if we were doing a MIDI project or something, they would. So that's all there. So if we click OK, it makes a new song. And we have this. Let me expand it to take up the whole thing. So what we want to understand down here at the bottom: edit, mix, and browse. So we have essentially an edit window that's available here. If we open up browse, that lets us choose instruments or effects or other things, and that will make sense as we get to it. And then mix at the bottom opens up the mix window. So if I add a track up here, let's just go through all of these. So this shows the track list. This shows the information on a selected track, but we don't have a track selected right now. This gives us some options. This turns on the automation lanes. This shows the track or the markers. This deals with the arranger track, which we're not going to talk about right now, and the chord track, and the tempo track. And then here we can add a track. So let's just make one track, one audio track. We'll add it here. So if I go back for information now, it tells me that it follows tempo. You know, it's got all of this other information about it. We're not going to get too complicated on that right now. So some of the other things we want to be aware of in the setup. If we go to the Studio One menu and Preferences, the Preference window, we can select a playback device. My playback device is this audio box interface that's plugged in right now. But other things that are available are the built-in speakers. I've got a bunch of stuff plugged in here or set up. But the audio box to record and edit lets you do a device block size. Generally, if you're recording, if you do this at smaller numbers, there will be less latency. And if you're mixing, you can do bigger numbers, which lets you process more things at once. So that's the audio setup. Down here in song setup, we can look at the audio in and out, which shows us that track 1 is in the left and track 2 is in the right for the mono tracks or the stereo track. And this is all set up for this. So if I had a different interface, this might look different here. So if we come down here, we have the channel strip. These over here on the side. So this small or large lets us adjust. Studio One does this thing where you can have the inserts and sends above the channel strip, or if you go to the small, you open that up with a little thing on the side here. Gives you a little flexibility in how much space you take up on the computer. There's also a narrow version. You can show inputs. The outputs are over on this other end. That's okay. Like here, if we had instruments plugged in, we could do that, but we can also make that smaller. Some more settings here. Pretty much anytime you see this little wrench thing, it will be settings. So there you go. That's the general layout. We have, if I add another track up here, you will see it adds another fader down here. So again, if we want to hide and show the mix, edit we'll get to when we get some audio in there, and then browse over here. My spot tends to be with the mix visible, and I tend to close the browse because I like having that space. But when we get to talking about effects, I'll show you what that does. All right.